Events like this make all the difference.
To bring this kind of event to students, it's something that we at the Cable Center also work hard to do, to bring together people and ideas to advance innovation.
I promise you, you have what it takes, and what you don't know today, you will learn, and someday you're going to stand on a stage like this and teach it to somebody else.
You need a champion. You need somebody who can talk you up to the boss or who can give you opportunities to let you shine.
We rebranded this year from One Day Immersion, which is what this day used to be called, to One Diverse Industry, to recognize, frankly, the work that we've already been doing, which is helping people from really diverse backgrounds come together and meet powerful people in media and learn how to get into it.
You're accountable for your own life. What kind of impact do I want to leave behind? And so I kind of feel like I'm able to kind of live the impact that I want to create.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to ODI's conference, You Incorporated Becoming Your Own CEO. My name is Elena, I am the Executive Director, and I'm happy to welcome you to day 3 of virtual content. A reminder that we will be running content tomorrow on Thursday on different career paths, and we will also have our in-person conference on Friday at Fordham Gabelli School of Business. If you're unable to attend live or in person, those sessions will be recorded and uploaded to our website and our YouTube channel, so feel free to check out the content there. Feel free to send in any questions you have from previous sessions or upcoming sessions to our Instagram page at onediverseindustry.org. Again, that's onediverseindustry.org. And we're really excited to kick off today's content. Our first speaker coming up is Sean Brannigan from Syracuse. He's from the Newhouse School. He will be presenting on media and entrepreneurship, how to pave your path. Sean will also be attending in person on Friday. He will be presenting with his colleague Danielle Multa, and they will be presenting the Media Mogul Maker curriculum, which you can follow along on our live stream, or you'll see posted after their talk on Friday. So we're really excited for that. Following Sean's presentation today, we will be honoring our Hall of Fame inductees. There are some interviews about them. I am so grateful and excited to announce that Zanita Henderson will be honored this year, as well as Crystal Williams, both of whom have contributed to ODI in so many ways, and they're just truly a gift and very inspiring. So you'll be hearing from them today. And lastly today, our final presenter will be Patrick Courtney from Fuse Media, interviewed by Paul, who you saw a lot of yesterday. So sit back and relax, enjoy. Feel free to shoot any questions you have over in the chat or message us on our Instagram, where we will be responding. Thank you so much for attending.
Hi, I'm Sean Brannigan from the Newhouse School at Syracuse University. I'm the director of the Center for Digital Media Entrepreneurship, and I work with students to help them start media ventures. One of the things that I've learned in the 12 years or so that I've been teaching this is that this is a way to change culture, that media entrepreneurship is actually a path to social change. Culture is shaped by media. Media is shaped by who owns media. And the more we can change who owns media, I think the more we have different voices, new stories, things that we need in media as well as are needed in our culture. So I am going to be teaching on October 6th a session, and we're going to have a workshop. So I'm not going to get into the juicy stuff here. I'm going to give a sort of a flyover of what's possible. I deal with media innovation, which actually feeds opportunity and opens the doors for new and different voices and different approaches to story. I'm going to give you a little of that on today's session, but I mostly want to give you an overview of why you might want to consider starting your own media venture if you're mid-career or if you're a student. I'm going to give you a what are some of the opportunity areas? And I'm going to introduce you briefly to a concept called combinatorial innovation, which just sounds so great. Combinatorial innovation, what a cool word, right? Combinatorial. What it really means is this mixing and matching things, which is what media people have been doing forever. When we tell stories, when we make movies, when we write books, we combine what has already been done with new and different ways of presenting a story. I'm going to give you none of the juicy parts. I hope to see you on October 6th in the session where we will ask you if you're gigging or if you have a side deal in media, or if maybe you've started your own venture. I'm going to be looking for that. So come prepared. This is the time not to be shy. We're media people, so we tend not to be so shy as other endeavors. But I am going to give you a little bit right now. So first, a little bit of, so what's really going on? Is media really changing? We hear about streaming and all that. That actually isn't really very innovative. That stuff's been around for a while. And we've seen some fallout of the last 10 to 15 years of media companies that have risen, sort of the BuzzFeeds, and then fallen down. And there were a bunch of others. I want you to focus less on that. I want you to focus instead on what's been called the creator economy. So thinking about how the gig economy, you know, the Ubers and the Instacarts and those kinds of capabilities create a job opportunity for people. But in many ways, they're not, I'm not going to put them down because they certainly have a purpose, but they're not the, I long to, you know, do that as my life's career. Some people are, and good for them, but a lot of people are doing it just to make a little side money or a little bit of a side hustle. Now, if you combine that with the passion economy, which is something that I really care about, and now the tools and techniques and the distribution are open for everybody. The democratization of media is really what's happened. And it has been a negative if you have an established media company, because it's saying, I don't have control anymore. Guess what? You never did. But we all bought into that you did. It's advertising driven and a whole bunch of other factors that are now just being splintered apart. And so let's just think, I'll give you an example of a couple of things that are happening in media innovation. So let's run tape. This is where we put the Bad Bunny video, and I'm going to put a little bit of it so you can see what I'm looking at. I'm going to do a little head bop so you can maybe cut that in if you want. If it looks stupid, that's probably good. But hey, wait a minute. That's a little crazy, right? Is that a music video or a documentary? Exactly. How about this? How about something a little calmer? Okay, this is where we queue up the, and I'll send the links to all this. Queue up a little clip of Bob Ross doing his painting thing. And then cut to me if you want and back out. Bob Ross, painting. Well, that's calm. Well, what the heck is that doing on Twitch? Bob Ross isn't even with us. Sorry, Bob. But Bob Ross creates a completely different kind of media experience. It's not about Bob Ross and learning to paint. It's about the calmness that maybe is around the Bob Ross series of painting shows that were on PBS for years and years. But what really happens is, in an environment like Twitch, it's creating the conversation. I kind of call this campfire media. I don't come to the campfire to talk about the wood or the fire. We come to the campfire, we're drawn to the campfire, and it's about the conversations around the campfire. What else is happening? Now, this is where I would like to clip in some pieces of TikTok movies. There are pirated movies that are on TikTok or shows that are on TikTok. I'll send one that I know of, which is The Nanny, but they're kind of hard to find because as soon as they're found, they're pulled down because they're illegal. But finding one of those and capturing it there and go, that's right. How many of you can say you've watched a full, now I'm back to my presentation. How many of you can say you've watched a full-length movie or a show, a multi-episode show in 6-minute, maybe 3 to 6 minute snippets on TikTok? This is what's happening. If you haven't done it, give it a try. It's out there, it's pirated. But I think when we see that kind of behavior, that's market behavior, pulling in a need, pulling in something they want and they need, and creating new opportunity. Yes, it's pirated. Yes, they're looking at a movie for free, but that doesn't mean that's the future. Remember, it's the same kind of thing Napster did, and then it became Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon Music and others, Tidal. And to me, these opportunities are all there because of innovation. I can name some other ones that I can tell you is the area where the opportunity is exploding right now. There's a show on Twitch of a guy sleeping. Again, it's that campfire media. It's about everybody talking while the guy's asleep. And maybe he'll move and that's interesting, but it's not about some amazing show that you have to see. Other shows are being created and going direct right out into the internet. I can distribute myself. So rather than waiting to get approved, again, if you're from an underappreciated, underrepresented audience, this is where you can tell the stories that are near and dear to your culture, your subculture, and talk about what that is and put that story out and not have to get permission from some old white guy like me. You just do it. Put it on Vimeo, put it out on YouTube, create the whole show. There are creator funds for this. There are all sorts of tools for running your business. This is the creator economy. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is what makes that creator different from an influencer. I'm kind of down on influencers. Social media has built this idea that, oh, if you get all these followers, you'll be able to make money. Yeah, you can. I think those days are numbered because it's not very effective. It's not very genuine, which is what they all strive for and they talk about a lot. Genuine is actually you care about the story and you care about the audience. And if I'm just chasing followership or subscribers, I'm really caring about that I have an audience, this kind of old media mindset, an audience that I can sell to a brand. Maybe you give me stuff to wear or a new pair of glasses that I'm going to talk about. That's fine. It's all well and good. But to me, if I'm caring more about the story, this creates a completely different kind of environment and relationship with that audience. This is the creator economy. Lots and lots of opportunity. Some of the things that I'm seeing in this is that big media is starting to show signs of failure. We may look back at this time and see things like the Barbie movie as the giant sunset, a hot pink sunset of the big Hollywood industry, the big studio Hollywood industry. Remember, the sun looks great right before it goes down, and it looks great right now. But if you look a little closer, there's all kinds of cracks in the foundation of that business model. The new business model they're trying to chase after, which is go and get these creators and leverage them to create some more relevance in the old model. But the reality is that doesn't hold up for very long either. The opportunity right now is for independent, story-driven, truly authentic storytelling in a niche area. And this is why it creates an opportunity for minorities, for more women, for people who are underrepresented in the ownership of media. One of the things that we've looked at on another session with my colleague, Professor Malta, we've been talking about what the percentage of ownership is in media of all types, ad agencies, production companies, post-production and special effects companies. There are all kinds of little companies. It's less than 6% are owned by women and less than 1% are owned by minorities. It's not even close. The reality is that these new media companies, these new platforms, the Amazons, the Apples, all the streamers, lots and lots of other new ones that are smaller that I think are going to grow into be bigger players in the media space as platforms, are looking for ways that they can participate in this new media that's being shaped. And to me, I'm one of the reasons that I'm at ODI and I'm doing this session is to say, if your story hasn't been told, if you've been thinking of a movie or a news angle that you would like to cover that's not being covered by traditional media, it's a long list. Now's the time to say, I'm just going to go do it. Some of the ways that I think that you have to think about going and doing that is to not just focus on the product. At first, just do that. Like, just launch something, just get it out there. And then the learning really begins, which is how to operate more like a business. Not just trying to get that TikTok video to go viral so that you maybe get attention, or you do it and you're viral on, you go viral on YouTube and you make money off of the advertising. That's not a full business model. That's a flow of revenue, yay, but that's not the kind of thing that you should be looking for if you're looking to build a career in a full-on business. More and more, and we've been doing some research, and I'll give some examples, not in this session, but as part of our longer term thing, is that we look at Media Mogul Maker as a program that we're bringing to communities, to community colleges and other universities. It's based on the curriculum that I teach here at the Newhouse School. And what we are doing is saying, look, we want to make this available for even more creators to up their game and not just be well-meaning influencers where they care about the story, but instead that they manage like a business. They may actually get themselves off camera and put other people on camera, or have multiple podcasts and be a new kind of mini media company, whether it's in advertising or any of the journalisms or in anything entertainment, including sports and music. All kinds of opportunity are brewing here. And I've been looking and tracking, as part of my teaching, is to be looking and tracking what kinds of things are happening, where the opportunity is. There's plenty of it. Some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about is, when you create value, don't get hung up on just looking at followership and views. Do you need to do that? Sure, that's the scoreboard. You better look at that, because that's what's going to count to when people say who's paying attention. But don't only buy into the bigger the number, the better it is. Because in truth, that's the advertising model. To me, if you had 1,000 people who really care, that's way better, and you are truly an influencer in terms of thought, provoking thought, being a thought leader, than if you had 100,000 or 1 million or 100 million followers who really don't care, but it was a moment, it was viral. It wasn't as sticky and as long term. Some of the examples that I like to give are Hank Green and his brother. They do nerdy things, or Marquise Brownlee does a tech reviews. They all started very small, with really, really small but dedicated and loyal followerships. They weren't trying to build big followerships. They kept in their lane. They kept on this stuff that is really hard to do, a review of a tech like Marquise does, or like Molly Burke does. She's visually impaired, and she talks about her visual impairments and what does that mean in society, and what does it mean. She has a whole crew. She's blind and she's doing YouTube. She is, how can you be more authentic than that? That is for real. That's not just authentic, it's real. Imagine, real. And she's not doing reality TV. She's doing education and advocacy. And she's doing all those things that we learn about in media, only she's reconcocting it, as do some of these other creators that I'm talking about. They're making it fun. They're adding entertainment to education, the Green brothers. They're adding sort of the personal human being touch on a tech review. Instead of, oh yes, this had highest throughput and blah, 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 blah. Who cares? I'm a person. How do I use it? And that's the kind of thing that Marquise Brownlee tapped into, doing real reviews by real people. Some of the other things that you ought to look at is, subculture is culture. And if you're from an underrepresented population, I have found it in my classes, because I've been doing this for 12 years. The students that come to my classes are saying, look, I've always wanted to do this movie, or I wanted to cover this kind of news and information. And I realize I'm going to have to ask permission for that. But our class, and what we're doing here with ODI, and then hopefully, if you're interested, you can find out more about Media Mogul Maker. What we are doing is we're saying, don't wait. How's that waiting stuff worked out for you? Not too good. We say don't wait because you should launch your venture and learn while you're launching. And we do it in university because that gives us a sort of a nice safe space. But we get a higher indexing of women, people of color in our classes because they really desire to get out there and tell the story that has not been told, something that's near and dear to them, or coverage of some topic that is not being covered. And if you wait, earn your way up into that position where maybe finally you can do it, you have this sense that you're probably going to do it. I'm going to tell you that probably isn't so. Take, for example, the Nobel Prize winning journalist, and I like to say media entrepreneur, Maria Reles, I'm probably saying her name wrong, Revis, in the Philippines, went and started her own publication where she could not only cover the kinds of things that she wanted to do, she left CNN to go do this because truthfully, CNN is good and all, but they're never going to give permission for her to do the kinds of things she did. And when she won this Nobel Prize, everybody was saying, oh, it's the journalist winning the Nobel Prize. I really see the bigger risk, and the bigger part of her life was to decide to be a media entrepreneur. I'm going to take a pause. So how do you do this? Well, we have this mythology about entrepreneurs. They're smarter than us, they're technical, they're business people, all not true. And we have this other mythology about the process. And the process is you have to know all these things, and then you get ready, and then you plan it, and then you launch it. And that is true in some ways, but that isn't necessarily the only way. We teach entrepreneurship at the Newhouse School, and I have, like I said, for 12 plus years. We teach it as a creative endeavor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some slides with you here and run you a little bit about what we do with at the Newhouse School with our approach to media entrepreneurship. So first off, here's a quick intro. Grab those contacts. I'd be happy to hear from you. And I hope to see you on October 6th in New York at ODI. But what I teach is coaching. I do coaching. I do courses and connections, including some co-op internships. So if anybody's interested in that kind of stuff, tell me and I can tell you how you set those kinds of things up so that you're working with entrepreneurs. The picture is near and dear to me. It was just snapped of a group, happenstance. Everyone in that, even Tony, who's just barely looking out, and Keen up in the other corner looking out, are all entrepreneurs who've gone on and done it and have had success in their careers. Does that mean their ventures have all succeeded? No, but they've all succeeded. And that's part of why you want to learn this. You want to learn an entrepreneurial approach because it turns your creative process that you do for production of media pieces that you might be involved in, and it turns it into an advantage for you to create a career. So we teach entrepreneurship as a creative process. Part of the reason we do that is success, we often think it's organized, it's technical, and yeah, those things are important. But the truth is it's magic. And we're really good at magic in media. And that's the one that I try to bring out with students. Innovators forget, a lot of times the technical ones or the business people, they forget that they have to be creative. There's a line about the best technology is in essence like magic. You can't see what's happening with the technology and it feels like magic. And that magic and that emotion drives markets. I bring as an example on the right there, that's the Google homepage from 1997, 98. The genius of Google, and look at how horrible that logo is. Forget about the logo. Those are side things. You go build a big business, everyone will love your logo. But they feel lucky. On this page and the age when it was Yahoo and there were all kinds of moving things, they kept it simple. And not only do they keep it simple, they put a little bit of magic. I'm feeling lucky. I click on that. Now, many people probably never clicked on it or did it only once and then they're done. But basically, they're just saying, look, we're doing this incredible thing. It's kind of magical. Put the magic in, especially media people. We know how to do this. We're really good at creating those magic moments. Don't underestimate them. I would go after them. So how can you do this? What's the process? That's what I'm going to give you today. Just a short flyover. And I'm going to give you, it's based on, if you're digging in, you can go look up effectuation. I call it entrepreneurial thinking, but is the work of Sarah Saravathi at the University of Virginia, the Darden Business School. She went to all these successful entrepreneurs and asked, how do you do this? And of course they answered, oh, it's magic. And I don't even know, it's a process. Or they would say, oh, I used the business plan. And they said all these things. And basically she found out that's not true. They really don't know what they're doing, but they do know something. And she tried to figure out what that was. And she came up with the 5 commonalities that all successful entrepreneurs seem to do. They don't do it in order. So don't look at this as a recipe. Just look at it as, these are the things you should be doing. And I'll run you through them. The creative entrepreneurial process is what I will call it. You start with your means. You don't wait. You don't say, oh, when I have a coder and $1 million, I'll go build this app. And I don't have a coder and I don't have $1 million. I'm going to go build the app anyway. It starts with, who do I know? Who do they know? And who am I is the main one. Like, don't fool yourself. Only work on the things that you're really, really good at. Don't fool yourself thinking, oh, I can do everything and I'm great at it. Yeah, in the beginning, you're probably going to have to do everything, but then get team. Build teams so that you're not getting somebody who finishes your sentences, but you get someone who doesn't even understand what that sentence is. They're working on something else. They complement you. So start with your means. Only take small risks. We have this mythology that entrepreneurs take these huge risks. Yeah, when you've had multiple businesses or you've made some more, made some money and you're taking a risk, you can afford the risk. You can afford to lose. This is a game of losing. And it's, how do I break down the potential loss to something that I can afford to lose? Doesn't mean I want to lose it. I don't want to lose. I want to win. But like in sports, you have to risk losing to really win. And if you're going to step on the court against the competitor, there's a chance you're going to lose. You need to say, will I be okay? Yeah, I'll be in the locker room. Well, I'll be sad, but we can play the next game and try harder. We can learn from this. Same here. You take small risks, you break them down, and then you do them repetitively. And you learn every time what I can do better and differently. I have this as plan for unplanned outcomes. I say this differently when I'm in class. So remind me if you come to the session on the 6th, then I'll tell you how I say this. But it's leverage contingencies. Bad things happen. But bad things happening is what an entrepreneur, and this is hard, they're always looking for what really happened here. Sort of a chin rub, like what really happened? I thought this, we had worked at it, we launched, and now this other thing is happening and not the thing we wanted. Wow, it's a failure. Wow. No, you look at it and you go, what really happened here? Sometimes it gives insight into market things that you don't even know. The idea, I was talking to a founder out of the UK just earlier today, and she was telling me they had done a number of different videos, they launched them, and one of them took off. And I said, what are you going to do? And she goes, we got to unpack what was about that one that took off. Right. Everyone's going to focus on your success and they're going to say, oh, yes, they had this amazing video, that in September went viral and da, da, da. They're not looking at the 7 others that didn't. You are the entrepreneur and you look at these unplanned outcomes. You look at leveraging contingencies of what went wrong and what actually is the learning. What is the market indicator that many times nobody else knows? There's great stories about companies that have done this. The other one is classic mistake. I've got an idea and I'm not going to tell anybody. Okay, well, it will fail because if you don't tell anybody, then you can't succeed. Not only that, I go the other way. Tell everybody. Tell everybody what it is. Get going on it and ask them what they think. And then be quiet. You're wanting to hear how they see it because they may see it completely different. And again, it's this unplanned outcome. I've told them it's this. They may say it back wrong. And instead of me correcting them, I go, huh, that's interesting. So you see, and they may actually be giving you the way to shape it differently. Everybody shapes it. Your customers, your vendors, all the people who are working for you, do not call them employees. These are your team. Early days, they're the team. And to the point where I had another founder friend of mine who said, we don't even know who came up with this idea. Oh, that's beautiful. The team came up with it. We don't claim it. It's not one of these, oh, that was my idea. Yeah, if you remember it and that's a pride point, that's fine. But the idea that the team is so interactive and everybody is working and trying to figure out how to shape the product, shape the service, get the business going, find the market, that we're all just working on together. It's an insanely fun time. It's not like teams that are put together. I make fun of student teams and student projects. When I die, I'd like to have my student team show up and be my pallbearers so they can let me down one last time. That's kind of one of the jokes I give in class, and everybody laughs and the head nods because they've been on those terrible teams. No, no terrible teams. These are amazing teams. And if somebody's not good, set them free. You know, oh, but they really know this thing, or they have a nice resume. Great, then they'll be fine. Send them off. You need to have a great team. You need to be working with the best people and being iterative without claiming everything is yours or oh, that one's theirs or whatever. Co-create and partner. Together, we're smarter than any one of us. And the last one's probably the key. You can rattle down through all these other ones, but this is the one. You don't wait for opportunity. You create opportunity. You work hard and then you get lucky. And because that lucky play, back to sports, the lucky play happens when you're on the field, when you're on the court, when you're in the pool, when you're doing the thing. And if you're not doing the thing, the lucky play isn't going to happen. The luck will happen over there or to somebody else or whatever. Opportunity is created by you. And the sooner you get this sense of you start with what you have, not what you don't have. You don't wait. You take small risks. So if it's a big risk to do this, cut it down. Do it in parts. Do it for a while. Change all the things that you can change to make the risk small. Know that things are going to go wrong. And in fact, you need to say, sometimes it's the best thing that ever went wrong. It's the right thing. And then co-create and partner, share it with everybody. They're all in. I don't mean make them a partner in your business. It's a completely different conversation. But you treat everybody as we're all shaping this together. It is an insanely good thing when you do this. You create this startup culture that is, I've had it, luckily I've had it in my career. It's unimaginably fun. And people will say, oh, are you working or are you having fun? I have no idea. I'm doing both. Yeah, that's kind of what I do. And then it's action. Take action. You can rattle through all of these and say, well, I'm not really sure. Am I able to do this? I think I'll survive it. You know, I'm not sure what the outcome. Yeah, let's just launch it. Let's just do something. Just do it. That's the way I would look at entrepreneurial thinking and the idea of that you can start a business. I'm not here to do the you get a car and you get a car and you get. No, it's not for everybody. It's a lot of uncertainty. It's a lot of being comfortable, being uncomfortable, a lot you don't know. There's a line about there's the things you know and the things you know you don't know. But the biggest set is the unknown unknowns, things you don't even know you don't know. That's what you're stepping into. You're there to go find that out with your team, with co-creators, with people sharing and shaping. It's a really fantastical place. The timing is right. The technologies are in place. The democratization of media has been happening in social media channels. I hate calling them that because they're not social anymore. They're just media channels. They're direct digital platforms. It means I can be in an international market tomorrow afternoon. That never was possible. And they're saying, well, but you need to set up all these and be in every. No, don't buy into that nonsense. Pick a channel, try something. In fact, some of the most successful YouTubers were on YouTube early and made the rules because nobody else was telling them, here's how you do it. Nobody was reading the manual on how to do Twitch. They just started doing things. Same here with TikTok. You've got all kinds of things, some of them that are horrible and others that are amazing. Mix and match. One last point. Combinatorial innovation is something that we all are capable of doing in media. It's how do I combine different elements and genres and all these things that we know in media. You got to know them in order to combine them properly. And not that properly is some recipe. In fact, it's the opposite. So when you go into your kitchen next time, are you making a recipe or are you making it up? If you're making it up, that's combinatorial innovation. You open the fridge, you go, okay, I've got this and this. I always had pickled herring, sort of a pickled herring guy. Close the fridge, you open up the pantry, and then you go back to the fridge and say, well, that's good. I can maybe combine this. So when you're going into this combinatorial innovation in media, you're thinking about how do I combine these things along the lines of what you do when you're in the kitchen. How do I make the best of what I have? Remember that start with your means? What's in the fridge? What's in the pantry? What's on the counter? What's in the spice rack, for God's sakes, has been there for 55 years. Okay, I'm old. The idea that you're going to combine these things in new and different ways can lead to insanely different kinds of media. The one that I'm going to give is not a media product, but it is. So, GPS. If I were to say how many of you use it, it's pretty much everybody. It's come to be just an understood part of our lives, is that you put it on GPS, you might drive by the directions, you might be one to look and then turn it off. Everybody uses it, but everybody's using it, but they use it a little bit differently. What I'm going to tell you is they didn't create anything. Did they create the satellites and put them in space? No. Did they create mapping? No, that was around for 100 years. Did they create the mobile phone? No, that's been around. Oh, but prior to that was these TomTom and some of the other ones. Yeah, well, they created that, but that wasn't as popular as what we have now when it's on our phones. They didn't create all those. They combined them in this unique way and added some things that they did create, which was an interface and this way to consider it and tools to look up things while you're doing your search from here to there on a drive. Some of the algorithms they certainly built, but most of it was just combining it in a creative way. The same is true in media. You can combine these things. Combinatorial innovation. Say it, love it, go after it. Okay, so to recap, the 5 things for entrepreneurial thinking. And the reason you should know this is, 1, you're able to use it right away. If you've got something you've been gigging or something you've been thinking about doing, just start. Just go right down through the list and get yourself going. Launch this afternoon, launch tomorrow. I'd love to meet you at ODI and you tell me you launched. Second one is that if you learn this and you're like, I kind of get it, it's there for future use. Great. You might come walking out of a meeting that has just been that's it, I'm out of here moment. And now you can consider, do I want to go start something? So it's sort of the entrepreneurial time bomb goes off in a good way. And now you're ready to do that. Third one is, you might want to think about how I can implement this inside my organization. If you're in a big organization, they need innovation. And guess what? They're not good at it. They have a long and storied history of not being good at innovation. Almost every one of the media companies that you are maybe employed at or looking to be employed at, they need help there. This is the process. It's not a big team. Don't be looking to get 40 people or 100 or 500 people on your team. No, it's small teams doing different things. And I would encourage, if you do get these conversations in a media company, is to do it like a convoy. Don't just have one big innovation. Have a bunch of them. So find some of your colleagues who go, yeah, but I think we should do a subscription somewhere or other. Okay, well, you want to be a part of this innovation team? Oh, well, I don't want to work on yours. No, I don't want you to either. You work on that one. Somebody else works on this one, and launch a bunch of things at the same time. That's how convoys were successful during World War II. The idea that you're going to launch multiple things in a big established company, you've got, with this five elements of effectuation, you've got a skill set that very few people, especially in media, have. And in fact, I'm going to tell you, in business, they don't either. They learn you have to know, they'll name all of the elements of a business plan, and you have to be good at all those to go and start a venture. Ours is much easier, and it's much more creative, and the outcomes are going to be more creative, is my contention, and I got students who are out there doing it who can prove it. So start with your means. Only take on affordable loss. Don't take a risk, take small risks. Number 3 is to, I'm blanking the order here, is that plan for unplanned outcomes. leverage contingencies. Things are going to go wrong, and you're going to find out what is that really telling you. Number 3 is co-create and partner. Everybody is in the business with you, especially your team, where you're sharing instead of just delegating, giving tasks. That's an old job. Who wants that? Nobody. You want to create it so everybody's working on it together and shaping it together. And last one is action creates opportunity. Those are your 5. I almost forgot my order here, but I live it. And having that in a corporate environment gives you an advantage. The last parting thing is I hope to see you on October 6th. It's a Friday. I'm not sure what slot I'm in, what time, but we are going to have an activity around this area. I'll probably give on the board, or if there's a way to present it, a little bit of effectuation and the 5 steps of entrepreneurial thinking. But I hope you're excited. I know I am. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the 6th in New York, my home. So until then, this is Sean. Bye from Syracuse. Take care.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elena. I am the Executive Director of One Diverse Industry. Welcome to our asynchronous portion of our conference. Today, we are going to be interviewing the lovely Zenita Henderson, who we are honoring this year as one of our Hall of Fame recipients. And in this interview, we're just going to talk a little bit about Zenita so you can get to know her and hear all the amazing, impactful things she has done for ODI and at large in media and tech. So welcome, Zenita. We are so happy to have you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all of your support to ODI. If we could start with you just telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do, we would love to hear all about it.
You got it. Well, thank you so much for having me, and I'm truly honored and was surprised. So thank you. ODI is my favorite thing to talk about, so I could be here all day if I had to be. But I'm Zenita Henderson. I am a big fan, supporter, advocate for everything that ODI stands for, everything that ODI started out as, and everything it is now, and what it ultimately will be for our industry, for the media industry. So big supporter of that and proponent for it. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I grew up in the Philadelphia suburbs and worked for a wonderful company by the name of Gerald, where I went into technology at when I was about 19 years old. And I stayed with Gerald straight through until they went through many, many acquisitions over the years, but they are ultimately now known as CommScope. So we were actually Google for a little bit of time and got some great stock options. Thank you, Google. And then Aris purchased us, and then we were ultimately purchased by CommScope, which is a lot of people in the cable industry would definitely know CommScope. They've been around for, over 50 years. So anything in your house that is cable related, that's hooked up by cable, is more than likely it's CommScope cable. So very much a very intricate part of the industry, as well as the company that I actually started with Gerald. I have to say, between Gerald and General Instrument and Motorola, and they invented every entertainment experience that you're experiencing right now. From when I first started at Gerald, they were just starting to come out with pay-per-view, which is now known as on demand, right? Then they went into who wants to listen to music on their TV. No one will ever want to listen to music on their TV. They invented Music Choice, which is now known as Music Choice. Started out as digital cable radio. Then they went into HD. Who wants to watch HD? Sports is probably what made it the biggest thing, but they invented HD. So you're enjoying these great HD TVs now. And then also the cable modem. They were the first to deploy the retail cable modem. So all this great stuff. And with the cable modem came, with voice over IP and all the things you can do with that, and then all this great bandwidth that you're now experiencing with the CMTS, which is powering the cable modem to bring all this stuff into your home and streaming TV. Everything that came out of General Instrument, which is still, even though their name has changed many times, it's still on paper because of all of the technology that was created in the industry. So I'm very, very proud to have been associated with it and had a bird's eye seat to all this great technology now that's out, and also with Motorola as well, with the mobile phones and things of that nature, and bringing the convergence of mobile and, with everything that happened around COVID, everything that we've been talking about since probably 2003 happened during COVID, right? With the convergence of, of your devices and the broadband and things of that nature. So I am so proud of that, to have been to be in that industry and to seen all of that technology change over the years. So that's a big part of just who I am, is just that. But I'm Zanita and been in the industry for a very, very long time, 4 years, and I care to say. And also a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan, big football fan. But it's sports related, I am all about it over the technology. So that just kind of wraps me up in a nutshell.
Fantastic. So inspiring. Zanita, can you tell us a little bit about your path into the industry and what made you decide to go into this?
Sure. So I actually started out my whole mission in life. I had my grandmother passed away when I was 9, back in 1977. And I actually had the most wonderful, caring nurses. And so I went the rest of my life wanting to be a nurse. So everything I did prior to that was all around nursing, going to nursing school. And then I had a summer where I had off. My mother got divorced. And my stepdad wasn't paying for me to go to nursing school, so I had to get a job. And so, and so I ended up, a neighbor of mine owned a cable distributorship, and he was like, hey, you need to go to work with me one day. And I went to work with him, and it was great. I was working there as a receptionist and was doing some customer service work for them at his company. But then there was a position that opened up in customer service for this company, General Instrument. And I applied for the job and got it. And so I started working there. And let me tell you, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I immediately said, oh, I'll just go there for the summer. Well, 28 years later, after I was there, I ended up staying forever because it was a great job. I literally started there in 1988. And they put me at a phone. We had a computer. We had a CRT terminal back then with one keyboard that was hooked up by a cord. And it was on a Lazy Susan that I shared with the other customer service rep that sat next to me. And so ended up in customer service. It was trial by fire. I went from worrying about how to give somebody a needle and wanting to be a surgical nurse to, yes, I'm shipping a line extenders next week, and knew what a line extender was. So there was no training, none of that they probably get today going into the industry, but literally it was like, here's the phone, here's your book of customers, go. And so that taught me so much, because even from the first month that I was there, what turned me around, though, was that there was a gentleman that was working in TRC, and my trainer had told me, if someone calls you and asks you a technical question, don't try to answer. Just
know what you don't know.
Right. So, yeah, don't try to answer it or whatever. And so I kept sending calls. Like, if they asked me about a lead time on a product or what was going on with their order, I would deal with it. But then if they got technical, and I would send them to TRC. And so this gentleman came upstairs, and I love him to death, Rob Haney, who I'm friends with to this day. He ran up to the customer service, like, who is customer service number, whatever my number was at the time. And I went, me, reached out, and he said, you're the one that keeps sending all these calls down to TRC, and they were like really simple questions. He said, come see me today during your lunch hour. And I went, oh, okay. So I went downstairs to my lunch hour, just like he asked me to, and he started telling me different things about the technology and the products. And, if a customer calls you and say, hey, you sent me this amplifier, I was supposed to work to 14 dB. You just didn't send me the pads for it to work at that level, right? So it was very little simple things that I got technical about from him. Because then when people would call, I didn't have to send a call to TRC. It reduced their call volume, because if I could answer the question, it wasn't that it was really technical. It really was just that, yeah, you ordered the lines, but you didn't order the pads to go with it to make it work, right? Or you order a TV, but you didn't buy the plug to put the plug in the back of the TV. It was simple like that started me out, that then got me into it. So then I just got super curious just about the technology, right? Just from that. And so that's what got me on the path to staying there, because I wasn't only just doing customer service. I started out in customer service, learned all the technology. Then I wanted to be a product manager. Then I wanted to go into marketing, because one good thing that happened at GI and Gerald in the early days was that when they would say they were going to launch a new product, they put people from each department to sit on a committee. And you would go into a room and they'd be like, hey, we're going to come up with this new product. What do you need for your job to be different to pull this, to bring this product out? And so it wasn't for you to go to the meeting and say, no, we can't do it. It was to say, well, here's how I do it now, but if you want me to do that, here's all the steps I need. So they would pick people from each department, procurement, customer service, finance, whatever. And so I would be on those teams for the customer service team and say, hey, well, if you want me to do this, I need a product, I need a part number, I need this, I need credit the service department to do this, I need credit to do that, I need shipping to do this. And it wasn't to go to the meeting to go, we're not doing that, or we don't do it that way here. It was to go to tell them what you need to do to change what I do so I can make this happen for you. And I'm so grateful that happened for me, because I never went to a meeting and said, hey, we can't do that, or that's not the way we do things here. That was never in our vocabulary. And I think the first time I heard it probably was years and years later when we were part of Motorola, and it was literally an audible gasp in the room from the old GI. So we never heard someone say they couldn't do something.
Right.
So that's how that was. But yeah, I started out in customer service at GI and Gerald, and then was really good friends with the gentleman who ran marketing at the time. And so fast forward to 1997, and Skip was getting ready to leave the company. He was going to retire, and he hired myself and another young lady to come in who was going to be leading the department, Andrew Britt, who is now over at CTAM. And he asked me, he went to HR and asked him if I could come out of customer service and join the marketing team. So I went over to marketing to initially do community relations because I lived in the area. We were getting ready to build this we grew so much between the 1988 when I started and then 1997 when I moved to marketing. We literally went from one building that was 3 levels of maybe 400 people to 1,200 people just in the local Horsham area.
Wow.
And it had grown, and we were in business campuses all over this, all in business industrial parks all over between Horsham and where we were in Hatboro. And so we were all going to consolidate on one location. They did pick a location in Horsham, which is where I was from. And they were like, well, since you're from there, the township was mad because literally Horsham back then was 2 lanes, 1 up, 1 down. Like it was a very small town, a very nice town, but a very small town. And we were going to drop 4 buildings, 1,200 people, traffic, the whole 9 yards. We had negotiated with the state of Pennsylvania, our CEO did at the time, Ed Breen, to put $60 million into the state to fix the roads from the turnpike entrance to Willow Grove Turnpike entrance straight up the Horsham Road. Like that's how massive this change was going to be to Horsham. So wow. I ended up moving over to community relations. I went back to my old high school, which was amazing to go back, not because I was on detention or in trouble, but to actually go to them to give them money.
Right.
For the school district. And so that was a lot of fun. And just work with the local community, with the chambers and all, to let them know that we weren't coming there to hurt the community, we were coming there to help, right? And then we were hiring people and job opportunities, we bring all this great technology into the town. So it was a lot of fun. What that taught me, though, they got me into this whole thing with ODI, was that when I would go to schools and say, hey, I'm from General Instrument, here's what we do, the kids would be looking at me like I have 3 heads. I'm like, I used to ride my bike by Gerald. Yeah, I didn't know what they did either, right? But once I found out, it was so exciting. And I would go to these schools, and none of the kids knew what that company did. And they were sitting there, like, the company was sitting in their neighborhood for years, and they didn't even know what they did. And once they found out, they got excited about it. So then, fast forward, that's why I got into everybody needs to know what this industry does and what our company does, and you need to be. So then I did community relations, got to be friends with another lady in the department who was working on trade shows, and she had a really cool job. And I used to love how everybody was traveling. So I had asked her if I could come work over with her. So I was kind of doing quasi community relations and doing trade shows for a while. And then as the trade shows just got bigger and bigger, and my help with her with the trade shows, because I knew the products, right? So if we were building a booth for a trade show, she knew all the marketing for the show, but she didn't know that, you necessarily can't show that product unless you have all this back end stuff to make it work. So she not as happened to just be a really good partner to do that. So I ended up doing trade shows, and then stayed with her for a while. Then she ended up retiring out, and then it was just myself and some other people doing trade shows. And then ultimately I got into actual marketing. So we fast forward from 1997 to 2007, and I got a really wonderful woman that came to work at our company that was doing marketing, and she had come in from AT&T, was just awesome at marketing. Like this woman, Susan Campbell, who definitely she and I are friends to this day. She changed my whole mind about marketing, because she would come in and they would ask her, they would want to work on programs, and it wasn't working with the agency to get them to tell you what you wanted to do. She would tell them what she was thinking, right? She would say, we have a campaign around Mobile Me, which was a really big program that she worked on back then. And I loved her style in that meeting, because she went to the meeting more or less for them just to keep her out of jail. not to give her the idea. She had the idea. She said, hey, I'm thinking, this is what I want to do with this mobile me platform. And it ended up being a great program. So I really studied up with her for a while. I had a great mentor with her in marketing. And that's how I got into like doing campaigns and branding and all that kind of stuff. And not just doing it from that perspective, really getting deep and getting into the science of marketing, right? And what it was about. Because she had worked on the AT&T when they were going to change to the smaller letters with the AT&T with the ampersand. And she walked me through that whole campaign. And I know more about the ampersand. You ever want to know about that? I know more about the ampersand than you ever want to know. So I love marketing because Susan put that into me, and it just kind of took on from there. So from there, I stayed. I was with Motorola straight through. Did a lot of marketing programs. Did some sports marketing, obviously, because Motorola was big in the sports marketing or in sports back then. So we learned how to use those assets with our customers to drive revenue for our customers to sell our products. So I was using all the NFL and the basketball and all the crazy sponsorships they had around NASCAR and IRL and stuff. I learned how to use those assets to help my customers, who were the Charters and the Comcasts and the Coxes of the world, to make money on our ad, just use them for contests and things of that nature to drive their services. So did that for a long time, and then was working. We went through an acquisition. Aris purchased us. I was with Aris for about 2 years into that acquisition, when I had really gotten into CRM. Oh God, I got into like Salesforce, like you would not believe.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God, I am such a CRM. That's my love language, just to let you know. it's CRM. And I really got deep into it. One of the associations that I was working with, I had started asking them a lot of questions about, can you give me this data around the show and around our members of your association, what courses they're taking and stuff, so I could prove out the ROI if I was participating in their show, so I can get a budget to do the show in the future. And the CEO, who I was good friends with too, he was just like, Z, why are you asking for all this information? Like, you're really stressing Laurie out of asking her for all this information. And I said, well, here's what I'm doing. And one day he called me and said, can we do lunch? And I said, sure. So I took my computer with me, and he's like, he wanted to see, and I trusted Mark, why was I asking for all this data? So I kind of like walked him through an instance of Salesforce and was showing him all the stuff we were doing, and how at the end of the day, I can go to my management and say, I need $1 million to go to Cable Tech Expo because here's what we did.
Right.
And he loved it. He was like, he goes, can you come work for me? Because they wanted to do it too. And I said, you know what? I fought it off for a couple of months. I'm like, no, I don't want. I'm happy. I've been here for 28 years. Why would I leave my job? And then one day I said, you know what? Maybe it's been 28 years. Maybe you should shake it up a little bit. So I left there, went to go to SCTE, the Society of Cable Telecommunications Engineers, to be their director of marketing. That ultimately ended up being, when I left there 6 years later, I was VP of marketing and business development. So that was I had a great run there, did some great marketing around their standards, the actual trade show, which is the biggest technology trade show that's in the cable industry, and got to just learn a whole bunch of more stuff, right, which is always great. And then ultimately, while I was sitting at SCT, one of the executives that I've been working with in the industry, who's with Cox Communications, he went to a Cox subsidiary that's owned by Cox, that's in a little bit of a different space. They're fiber wireless, not fiber broadband. And when he tech company,
all right,
baby,
rewind. I was waiting for that.
No, I would keep that in.
Just so excited to see you.
And when Kevin went over to that company, he asked me to come to be. Now, when he first called me, he asked me for the job, I had no idea that Kevin was paying attention to me. And that's another lesson learned, that you never know who's watching you, right? You see all those quotes about, you want to be with people who are talking about you when you're not in the room. This is definitely one of those conversations that I had worked with Kevin's team a lot, because he has supported our show. Cox was a huge supporter of our show. He would be a chairperson for the show every other year or so. And I really had never had a one-to-one conversation with Kevin. He was on our board, but I presented to him. I was marketing him for the show, things of that nature. But he was watching, and so when he got this other opportunity to become a CEO of a Cox affiliate, he called me and asked me if I'd come over to be their chief marketing officer, and it floored me. I tell everybody that story. I'm like, I had to get my phone number for that,
right?
And so that's a lesson learned, that you never know.
You never know. Wow, thank you so much for sharing, Zanita. What a career, just incredibly accomplished. You mentioned a lot of flexibility and a lot of learning. You seem to be very passionate about those things. If you could go back and talk to your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself before you knew knowing what you know now? If you could go back and tell them what to do or any piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say know your value and speak up.
Mm.
Know your value, because I definitely I've always said that, I went into that job because look, I was coming out of nursing school. I went and just took a job ad hoc. So I probably started out at the lower end of my salary band than I probably should have. And it took me years to catch up. So I would say all the research about whatever position you're going for, but make sure you know the value of what you should be going in the door at, so you don't have to fight so hard to get to that next level, because it took me a long time to finally catch up. And number two, I would say I was a great Robin. You got Batman and Robin, right? I was a great Robin. I used to love doing these beautiful presentations and doing all this great stuff and giving it to my boss and push them out the door. You go do the presentation. Bye. Or I'm not going. I was a great Robin. I really was. I mean, and I think that's why my bosses loved me so much. I mean, I had wonderful bosses who all appreciate the fact that I love the work, right? I never want someone to catch me and not ask me a question and I not know the answer. So I will go into the weeds. I know a lot of people say executives supposed to be up here. Yeah, I go into the weeds and come back up, because I do never want to be caught off guard where I don't know an answer to something, to a question. So I absolutely was a great Robin. I did not speak up for myself. Anyone in my industry will tell you that in the early days, I just would just do my work and be like, you know what, your work should speak for itself. And I still say that. I don't want you. I know everyone's into the gravitas and you should be like all this and that. I think that I made it because I wasn't. Right. And what happened was all of the accolades and all the awards that I've gotten over the years were not because I applied for them. It was literally because I had a wonderful group of women in our industry that pulled me to the side back in 2014 and said, we're tired of you not taking credit for your work. And I'm applying for this award for you. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. That, for me, that works for Zanita, right? But I would even tell if my child or all my mentees that I've had, I've told them that you do have to find a way to make sure that people know that you're doing the work. Not in a way where that you're going to make a nuisance of yourself, or people go, here we go again. Yeah, but make sure that you speak up and people know that you're doing the work. And luckily, the first 28 years of my career, I was at the same company with the same people who knew me. And they knew that I was doing the work, right? So I got taken care of very well by those executives who they knew of. They knew who was up front, but they knew what was happening in the background. So thank God for that. That's not going to happen these days, right? I was fortunate enough. I had my same senior team, right, who had started out in desks next to me, by the way. Wow. They rose up the ladder. But I was fortunate to have had the same senior team who knew me, I grew up with them, right? And so, but when I got that last letter in 2012, when my last two executives who I literally had grew up with were like leaving for other opportunities, I was like, oh God. That's what my career rebooted, because now John and Rob are there to say that Zanita did that or Zanita was doing that. So I would say know your worth and be able to, I'm going to say, eloquently speak up and just let people know what you're doing.
Wow. Thank you for that. I'm going to put that in my pocket too. I know as young people, it can be intimidating to step into the room and say,
if you're one of the people like, look what I did, no, you got to figure out a way that's best for your personality and you got to read the room and know who you're working with to be able to say, to get your credit due, but do it in a way that's in the tempo of who you're working with.
Right.
If you got a really brash boss who's doing that, yeah, do that. But if you got one that's not, they won't appreciate it.
Right. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Zanita. We really appreciate your time and all the work that you've put in for ODI. We're really excited to have you in person and to honor you and chat with you. So thank you so much.
I love all the schools that have supported ODI over the years. And we are going to absolutely keep this thing going and get more people, get more industry organizations to support ODI, because this is wonderful. We want to have a diverse industry. We talk about it every day. This is a forum to really bring our industry together and bring in some fresh new talent and diverse talent into our industry. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate ODI giving me that floor to be able to do that and to help that across the years that we've been associated together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our ODI asynchronous portion of the conference, You Incorporated Becoming Your Own CEO. Today, we are honoring Crystal Williams, who has been a wonderful part of ODI for several years, and we are honoring her this year with the One to Watch Hall of Fame Award. Reminder, my name is Elena, and I will be hosting you at this conference this year. And we'd like to welcome Crystal. Crystal, thank you so much for being here and for making time. So excited to have you and to hear about all the wonderful things you do. If you want to start off by just telling us who you are and what you are doing, we would love to hear all about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be connecting with everyone and super excited to be here and also be talking with you. So I work in TV development. So I work in children's television. I'm a development manager at an award-winning production company called 9 Story Media Group. We do shows like Day on Tiger's Neighborhood, Blue's Clues, a whole bunch of shows on Apple and Netflix, and basically just kids TV everywhere. And I play a large part in deciding what goes on our slate and what we get to make and what we get to pitch. And so it's been an incredible opportunity.
Incredible. Can you tell us a little how you got into that and what drew you to that in the first place?
Yeah, it's funny. My background is actually in music. And I went to school because I really thought I wanted to be a flautist. And ended up kind of being on this path of sound engineering. And I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. And the funny thing is that you have to, when you pick what you want to do, you have to be willing to go through all the journey of that. And I found out very quickly that I did not like coaching poorly prepared musicians at 3:00 in the morning. and that part of being a sound engineer wasn't just recording Beyonce, but it was actually recording people that just got paid on Friday that want to do their next rap track. And that just felt like, I don't know, I could do this. I think for me, what's always been important is kind of living my passion, or kind of always pursuing what's the most that I have to give out of this life. And so I thought I could do just that. But I took a class called Sound Design for Animation. And it was really creative. And I was like, oh, okay, there's other things that I can do with sound. And I think just through my journey of just internships and through after school, I kind of landed working in radio, working in news. And then it's good to always take inventory of where you are. And I just took inventory at that moment of time about 2 years after graduating. And just the people around me just weren't happy. I thought that the jobs that I was in, I thought they were great jobs. And I just didn't see people who were excited. I felt like people were my executive producer wanted to be a writer, and, my anchor wanted to be a vocalist. And I was like, these are great jobs. People are passionate about them, but I always want to pursue, what's the most in me. And so I was like, I think it's time to go back to grad school. I've always loved film and television. Spent a lot of nights. My mom was a single mom, so I spent a lot of nights waiting for her to come home, watching things that she told me not to watch, like Martin and the Wayans brothers. But also I just watched so much television. And I just felt really, in the TV that I was watching, I felt seen. Even in things like I Love Lucy, I just felt it was just fun. It was creative. And I just felt things that really inspired me was just the era of the WB, or certain eras of Cartoon Network, or the era of Nickelodeon with shows like Salute Your Shorts, and just other things. I just felt I want to build that experience for also other people. So I went back to grad school, graduated, took a detour, lived in Europe for a year, came back, got a development internship, and really kind of felt like development is really, really where I want to be. I felt like I had a lot of power and control to discover new artists, new writers, new comedians. It just felt like a match. And I spent, but as we know, it's not just like you want to be something you're when you're it. And so I spent the next few years, being an assistant at a media company. And I think about 2.5 years, I was just like, okay, like I need to figure out, I really want to be in development. I'm close to it. Like I always felt like I see things, I see people doing things. I can see the content. Like I was reviewing a lot of indie films at the time. I was like, but I still feel like I'm disconnected. And so I applied for a really long time, had a lot of interviews, had interviews where I didn't get the job, had interviews where I did get the job, but I was just like, living in New York, like I need to pay rent. So I can't do that job. And I finally just applied for, a job at 9 Story about 4 years ago. And and it was a perfect fit. And I got interviewed. I could tell that I was like, oh, I think I got a chance. They brought me back to interview for another position, and then they just hired me on the spot.
Oh, nice. Wow, that's so exciting, Crystal. Thanks. I love this like roundabout path. I'm hearing more and more from so many people in the industry that there is no one way to get in this industry, right? There's no set linear path. And it's really inspiring to hear all of that, and that you enjoy what you're doing and that you found it. That's incredible.
Yeah, and I'll also say I haven't like thrown away sound. It's like also like one of my big pieces of advice is like, if you're good at something, you love something, like you never know what's going to come out of it. So just continue to nurture it, because I actually teach at the School of Visual Arts. I teach a sound design course to animators. So you never know.
Cool.
Yeah, so you never know how things are going to come back. So I still dabble in the sound realm, but this is, I think, my my passion.
Oh, fantastic. That is so cool. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in ODI and what ODI means to you?
Yeah, so I went back to grad school to Syracuse University, and they were big on just personal development, and ODI had a conference, and they loaded us all in a bus and sent us down there. And it was just a really great experience. I feel like when you're a student, it feels like a lot of pressure to, at least it felt for me, to ask smart questions. And if you don't have a smart question, like don't ask it at all. But I think at ODI there was like the pressure of just existing and being in this space. It just felt natural, and I felt like people were accessible, and I felt like the people on the panel was accessible. Dolly is really accessible. And so I think just the nervous energy of me coming in just went away. There was just a lot of pressure, especially in media, to figure out what you want to do, to figure out where you need to be. And I think asking questions, even if they are not the most intelligent questions, you just need that space to be able to do that, to figure out where your path is and what to do next. And so I really enjoyed my time there. I think it's a great resource for students.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I'm glad we're expanding the space. That's the whole point, right? We want people to feel that they have room at the table and to ask about things that they don't know. So, and then a quick thing about diversity. How do you feel about diversity? How have you navigated in this industry, getting into those rooms? What's your experience? And also, like, what advice do you have for students maybe from an underrepresented background walking into this space?
Yeah, I mean, well, diversity is super important. And I'll just say that's kind of why I wanted to get into development, because I wanted to see more people like me, not just more people like me, but more people from like content from like my generation. I wanted to feel represented, and I want everyone to feel represented. And it's super important when, it's super important to be able to see yourself in the spaces that you want to go into. And I think navigating is challenging. It has a lot of ups and downs. But I think at the end of the day, what has always saved me is that I'm just never afraid to be myself. And I'm never afraid to show people my the vulnerable parts of me, because I think that's what makes me. And I've always been like this since I was a kid. Like I really can't. I struggle to be fake. And
Yeah.
so, I think, be yourself in all situations. And it's hard, right? Because you're not always going to connect with people. It doesn't mean that it's you. It just means that you haven't found your village yet. You haven't found the one person that is going to connect with. And so I think what was hard for me coming in is that, sometimes when you meet up with someone and there's not a connection there, or maybe you feel like you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's just, that person, sometimes it's just that timing. And I just always just lead with my passion. I don't let people, tell me where they think I should be. Like, you have your own journey. You have to lead that journey. And I'm just never afraid to be I'm never afraid to be myself. And I would also say take advantage of the communities that you're in, like there are at this stage, there are so many there's so many, industry conferences, there's so many different spaces for women and for people of color. And so, really be connected with people who are in the industry, and you see yourself in them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal. I think we have time for one more. I would think, sorry, hold. John, cut that out. Last question here. Is there anything you wish you could go back and tell your 20-year-old self? What would you tell them?
I would say first, calm down.
Relatable.
Just calm down. It's all gonna be okay. I think this industry it's what's challenging about working in media is that it's not like what the next step is. You kind of have to figure that out and trust yourself. And so I think a big part of it is to trust yourself. Trust that you know yourself, trust that you can make good decisions for yourself. And if you don't, you can handle the consequences of that. And also sometimes there's not good or bad decisions. Sometimes a decision is just a decision. So take the pressure off of having to do everything right. And then the second thing I would say is like take risks, take chances, and just look for opportunity. Opportunity is wherever you make it. So if there is a space, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask someone to go to lunch with you, to explain more things to you. Don't be, I wish in my first job when I was working in news, I wish that I demanded more opportunities. People probably would have said no to me just because of the environment. It would have been a no. It would have been a hard no because I kind of already did. But I would be, just be unstoppable. Like, people want to help other people when they see that you're going to do it either way. Mm-hmm. So just trust yourself, calm down, and take lots of risks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal. And it's lovely to have you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
ODI Conference 2023. I am here with Patrick Courtney, Head of Digital and Business Development at Fuse Media. My name is Paul Bukowski. You've heard my voice many a times before. But Patrick, thank you for joining us. And how are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. I am in our office, and we were in the middle of a green light meeting, so I'm in a glorified closet here. So sorry if the audio's a little, but that's where we are.
No, it's all good. I noticed no windows, and I was waiting to see if you blinked twice to
Yeah, it's a small room. It's not for anyone with any level of claustrophobia. I'm fine though.
All righty, man. Well, Patrick, thanks for being a part of the conferences here. And so you work with Fuse Media, Head of Digital Business Development. And why don't you let us into your world to kind of start off with telling us about your experience at Fuse Media, and we'll get into the historical in a second, but tell us a little bit about what it means to be head of digital and business development, and what you guys are doing specifically at Fuse Media.
Yeah. So Fuse Media, we're a global entertainment company. Our kind of our differentiation is we're all about inclusive entertainment. We're a diverse-owned company. We reach a young, mostly multicultural audience. We have two linear pay TV networks that we've had for 20 years. We have a suite of fast channels, free TV channels, basically. We have subscription service. We have YouTube and social channels. Pretty much anywhere that young people consume content, we have some sort of a presence. So my remit is kind of anything that's not on the pay TV linear side of things. So it's all of our streaming efforts, it's those fast channels, the subscription service, our YouTube channel, our social media properties, and then anything that we find that we think is kind of an emerging area and where a modern media entertainment company should be looking at. So, I was the Web3 guy for a little while, and looking at opportunities in that space, and now looking at things like AI and all of that kind of stuff that we just you need to, in this day and age, constantly need to be looking at all of the different things going on and saying, okay, are there any lanes around here that company like Fuse Media should be looking at? So that's what we do for the digital business development group.
Very cool. And it's also a fun job too. I mean, Web3 was so interesting for those 2.5 months. Like AI.
It still is.
It's still
there's a lot of. It's in the building phase now.
Right.
The hype cycle is over, but and now we're building it. But there's still a lot of exciting things going on in that space.
Totally. No, I believe it. I believe it. So you very much kind of do like the seek out, like where do we fit in these new lanes, kind of explore those possibilities there. And so how did you get there? Where did you come from? I know you went to where was it? McKillican, or am I saying that
Millikan.
Okay.
Millikan University. Yeah.
Business and music. So how did you go from saying business and music? I know a lot about you, Patrick. I did a deep dive.
Yeah.
Investigator.
Okay.
So how do you get from there to now where you are today? Take me through the path.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I majored in music, business and music. It was only music to start. I went to school, took piano for a long time. Had a scholarship on trumpets and felt like doing recording technology, being in the music business was going to be interesting. Media in general, particularly digital media, has always been something very interesting to me. Like the first time that I was able to dial up a modem and play a video game over the internet with friends was like, oh my God, this is blowing my mind. And then YouTube and all of that was, I'm in that generation that kind of crossed that gap, and that fascinated me. And I have, I love music, so I figured maybe that would be the space. I very quickly learned that music was like definitely in the hobby zone for me and not a full-time career thing. So I took my degree, and then I moved to New York without a job or anything like that, and my first job was shipping DVDs out of the back office of an agency for a number of months before they hired me.
Sorry, Patrick. I love where this is headed, and I appreciate the move to New York without a job. I love that type of energy. But I gotta stop you real quick on the point you made of you realized that music was more hobby and media was more the professional interest. And before I let you carry on, we'll get back to the tale. But tell me about that decision and kind of how that molded in your mind.
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm not a person who spends a lot of time dwelling on things. Like you could say I don't overthink, or you could say I underthink things. But really for me, it was that music was like a super passionate thing for me. It is a stress outlet, like relief outlet for me. It's creativity. It's all those things. Like I enjoy it, whether it's piano, guitar, trumpet, whatever. Like it just like playing is something that's very therapeutic for me. And I thought, well, I'll take this thing that I love and I'll find a way to turn it into my career. but I realized that it's a passion for like this other side of me that if I mix the two things together, it's not fun anymore. And I'm just like, I don't have the brain to take it that far. Like it's something that is, that's why I say I put it in the hobby zone. Like it's something that I really enjoy doing, but like if I'm pushed, it kind of breaks for me. Like I don't excel in the way that you would really need to be someone in that competitive industry at that level. And it just wasn't something I kind of was like, oh, I want to keep this for myself.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of it just being media, like that's the part that like I just am obsessed with that, like that, and that comes a lot more naturally to me from like a business standpoint, like how to get, how is media distributed, how's it monetized, how do you connect with people across, like that part of it was much more natural for me. So that's where I kind of like, obviously I finished college, finished my degree, but then sort of said, you know what, let's see what other options are out there and what other, career opportunities there could be.
Very cool. Yeah, I just think that's fascinating because I feel like a lot of people go through a point in time early on in their career where they're like, I need to turn my passion into my job, or else like my life like is going to be completely jumbled, and like I can't think about anything that's adjacent to this one passion. I must only pursue this one thing. And then when people kind of, at least just from folks that I've heard with, and myself, even in other terms of something years back, is it's like, it's kind of difficult to come to an understanding that, is for you in a way of like, hey, this music thing is therapeutic. If I make this a job, it like sours the whole thing. Like, I can't add dollar signs and how long am I working. As soon as I, craft a framework around something that's my moment for just me, it's just me and as Patrick, that's when it completely sours the experience. And I think, I don't know, I feel like in the past I've heard of a lot of people getting almost caught up and in their own head about being able to separate that and considering that, for lack of a better term, like I must fall on my own sword and move completely entirely away from this if I can't go through this one single avenue. But then for someone like yourself and the self-awareness and as you described it as like underthinking, which I claim you for, and I wish I had that in me as well, of being able to pivot and move in something that you're like, hey, this still gives me a same feeling of excitement in media, like you said, with like the video games. It's kind of like an interesting way to, articulate a self-reflection moment of being able to pivot properly and understand the elements of media and what you like and how that has influenced you as a whole to be able to pivot for your benefit constructively down an avenue that you're like, hey, this professionally actually is what fits for me. And I still get that same amount of excitement, even with the structure, even with the framework. I think that's really cool, especially at, coming across that at such an age.
Yeah. And I think that's part of like, I mean, to think that you're gonna come out. I mean, if you do, like, rare and go in Godspeed, but to come out of college or high school or whatever at such a young age and know exactly what you're like what you're going to do, like it just that's the time for experimentation and seeing what's see what clicks for you, because you might be surprised. I was surprised. That's why I went to school for music and was like, nope, that's not it.
But there you go. And then so now here you are. So you went to school for music. Now you're in New York with and you're selling something. And what are you selling again? Take us back into that.
Yeah. I mean, it was like this was I think I was just blindly applying to every media agency or company over Craigslist, entry-level jobs until I got one. And it was a media agency that was kind of like, it was kind of like digital PR at the time, but it was for one of the clients. The client that I worked on was Universal Studios Home Entertainment. And it was at the time where you would ship physical DVDs to like Rotten Tomatoes for them to review, or Joe Blow or Chud, or these like all these, you know, movie review sites. And that was my job, was to just get, you know, I'll get 50 DVDs of some, like, you know, the Alfred Hitchcock box set or whatever, ship that out to, you know, 100 different websites, and then track the reviews across the internet and screenshot that stuff and then send it back to the client. Say, look, you got all this buzz on the internet. That was my first job.
That sounds like a fucking sweet first job. That sounds.
I mean, like it's really what set me on like a little bit of my career track. It wasn't bad. I mean, like, you know, the pay was not very good, and it was literally sitting in like a room kind of like this.
The bathrooms are cool. Yeah.
Yeah. For day in and day out. But, you know, like I just, and then use that opportunity to then, you know, make my way and go start talking to the other account managers and develop relationships and help out in other areas where I could, and eventually offered a job and worked at that agency for a little while. And then I got into media. Then I went over to Forbes. I was at Forbes.com in what was the audience development group at that time. So it was about, you know, really driving traffic to the video content that we were starting to produce on the internet. Video on the internet was still like really, you know, new kind of thing, and how it could be monetized and all that kind of stuff, and where we would put it in the website and all that kind of stuff. But I learned a lot about publishing and distribution, like the difference between, you know, editorial and the business side of things, and how those things work together and how sometimes they don't, and how you kind of work with that to build a publishing business. And then from there, I went to an agency called Definitive, and was doing, we called it word of mouth marketing. It eventually like evolved and turned into social media marketing as Facebook introduced pages, and then it became like, you know, marketing on social media became a thing. But before that, we were standing up websites, bringing in communities of people with like interests, and then creating evangelism around that. So we built the fan community for the first Assassin's Creed game with Ubisoft before that game got launched. So we invited 30,000 gamers in, gave them activities and hyped them up to buy the game and all this gamification stuff. And then when the game came out, said, you know, go and buy the game. We did that across video games, pharma, you name it, anything where they were trying to harness some evangelism. And then, so I did that for a while. Then we evolved that into social media marketing. And then I jumped to Broadway video. And that was pretty transformative, because that was like working in, you know, obviously Broadway video, pretty, it's an institution in media and entertainment, learning a lot about how content gets made, how you work with talent, all of that kind of stuff, and worked with their digital network called Above Average for I think it was 4 years, something like that, building that, the MCN at the time, the YouTube channel, figuring out opportunities for how to market, the comedians who were coming in. It was kind of like it was a little bit like a farm team for SNL. There was a lot of comedians coming in, doing the stuff that they wanted to do, and then seeing if they could get to that next level to get on SNL and get and further their careers. And that was a ton of fun. Worked with a lot of great people there. Yeah, it was. We had a lot of fun. That was also during the time that Evan was running CISO, and so we did a couple projects together with Above Average and CISO, which was fun. Yeah, that was a really great time. And Broadway video just has, you know, it's got the Lorne Michaels orbit. Like, you just know you're part of something kind of special when you're in it, when you're around it. So that was a lot of fun. But then I saw what was going on with video on the internet, and then where TV was kind of going, and there was going to be this kind of convergence. I didn't know anything about television. So then I started to like kind of open up the aperture to see if there was a, you know, TV company and a network or something that I could at least cut my teeth and figure out how that business worked. And that's when I joined Fuse. And that was about 6 years ago. And it's a very different company than when I first started, in a good way. And that's brought us to here.
That's all very, very cool. And I'll jump back into your story in a second to get more granular with it. But And this is why I didn't send you questions beforehand, is because how this always goes is I write out a bunch of them, and then during it, I just never even refer to them, and I just start asking things that I feel inclined to during. So you've always been, it seems like, even from your first job from Craigslist, of sending, videos to like Rotten Tomatoes and things of that nature, is working, say, like on like that cusp of like these are the, this job is what's innovating, the industry in this specific way for many others to follow. Given the climate of like everything that's going on now, and I know this is a very loaded question, but given everything that's going on now, where do you foresee those next round of jobs might open up, and in what area specifically? That could be like revolving around like AI, or revolving around like how television is adapting and all the subsidiary companies that would be popping up now, in regards to FAST or anything of that nature. Where would you see someone like, say, Patrick, X amount of years ago, coming out of college, getting that job that first introduces him to, say, like this new realm of media to get your hands in?
Yeah, I guess there's always like, like they talk about, they're like, there's the job markets, and they expand and contract, right? And right now in media and entertainment in particular, it seems like we're in like a little bit of a contraction mode, right? There's not a lot of like hiring sprees going on across media and entertainment, and it's a little bit because media is in this place of transition. But when it comes to like the way that I look at it, and it was my experience also, is that you don't necessarily look for the right job. You just look for a company that you think is doing really interesting things, and then try to figure out a way to get in there by any means possible. And if it's an entry-level job, the thing that they're not looking at is probably work experience, right? Like it's like, is this a person who can just figure it out? And do they have the curiosity? Do they have the drive? Do they have the work ethic? Do they want to do this? And it's for us too, because like we're an independent media company. We don't have a lot of people. We just need good people who want to be here and are really interested in doing this. And then, getting them in the right places so that they can thrive. It's becoming a much more like multi-hyphenate, like kind of workplace. Like right. You aren't just like this one type of thing. You do the role and you punch in and punch out. And it hasn't been that way for a long time, but it's even more so today, where it's like you kind of just, the generalistness of it in a lot of different areas. There's some areas that are still sort of specialized, but you kind of have to be very adaptable and very willing to learn. And if you don't have the curiosity in the space that you're in, you're going to probably end up like feeling a little bit behind on things, because you just have to have that natural curiosity to want to learn the thing that is now the new thing or whatever. And that's what I learned. I love technology, but I am not a technologist. I took when I was in high school, I was taking these community college classes for like networking and operating systems. I had to wire Ethernet cords, and I was asleep the whole time. Like I just can't, that's not my thing. I thought maybe that was going to be my thing, because like, oh, I love tech, I love the internet or whatever, but put me in front of like a DOS prompt, or like having to do like this stuff, or, understand operating systems in that sort of intense way. And I cannot do it. So that very quickly put me on the track of like, all right, what just really drives my curiosity, that just like, I will do this. I will think about this in my free time, because this is what I'm so interested in. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think like today, yeah, there's AI, there's VR, AR, there's Web3, there's, the transition of TV into FAST and SVOD. There's all these different things. And you know what, like, it's going to keep going like this, like that. It feels like this idea that like, that there's going to be another 100-year, like, cable TV type of ecosystem or whatever that is just going to be there. Like, it just like changes the new constant thing. Like, it's like, that's just what it is. So you like, and I think young people like are super prepared or well suited for that, because there's the energy, but then there's that curiosity. And it's, I think, just like, looking at across those things and then saying, what companies do you identify with that you think look like they're doing the right stuff, and then just find ways to get in there. Like, there was, I think it was something, I forget his name now, the Foursquare guy, started Bevel. Oh, man, I'll look up his name in a minute, but his whole story was like how he got the job at Foursquare, which then he became like the number two and like did a lot of great partnerships. He just showed up one day, just sat at a desk and said, "What can I do?" Like, wasn't interested in the sat down, said like, "What can I do here?" Yeah. And he just started showing that he was super curious about it, started doing the work, and then started to get more and more work and got brought on, and then ended up, helping them sell the company.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with that story too. It's very, very cool. And as you mentioned, like, say, how to navigate finding that first.
Tristan Walker.
Justin Walker?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, let me see an image of him real quick.
He has Walker Brands now. Super successful guy.
Oh yeah.
Very nice guy too. When I was at Affinitive, we did a couple like back at Foursquare. We did some badge claiming stuff. Like we did some projects with them, and he was great.
Oh, that's refreshing to hear. Very cool. Well, yeah. So then, like, as you just put it in terms of like approaching like how you navigate figuring out which company you want to, take your great interest and, you just down to work and grind and just hop into things and see where you fit. But just stemming from that, like just general interest, you're not just coming in here for the paycheck, you're coming in because you're extremely interested in what these specific group of folks are doing. Is that similar in the way in which you also went around networking when you were on the younger professional side? You mentioned like from your first job and how you navigated to the others, or how did you sort of navigate this incredibly umbrella term that is, networking? How did you sort of navigate that, and can I do it efficiently? But like, sometimes I feel like it's so interesting because some people talk about networking and they sound like it's so clinical and methodical. That's like crazy right now. Like, yeah, I reached out to these 100 people. I know nothing about them, and it was so awkward when I got on the phone. But like, they told me they introduced me to blank, and it's like that sounds just bizarre. But how did you
go? Yeah, I'm not. I mean, despite being in business development, like networking does not come naturally to me. I'm the person that shows up at an event and I just go like straight to the bar, or find somebody that I know and then I just stay with them the entire event. Like it doesn't come that naturally to me. I do like, I put a lot of weight into like the people I work with, like, making sure that like there's a culture that you can, actually have a rapport with the people that you work with, because you spend so much time with them, and, everybody's got their own networks. So a lot of it came from that, just talking with people and at the company that I worked with. And then, people just generally gradually move on to other things. And before you know it, your network sort of kind of spreads out, and then you've kind of got this thing. I think that was back, to whatever, or 2000s. But now, I mean, like a lot of the networking is concentrated on LinkedIn. Like today, LinkedIn is like, I mean, it's so easy to connect. And if you put the work into it, you can get a lot of engagement, a lot of traction. You can get a lot of notice. We're having a lot of those conversations right now at Fuse. It's like, how do we develop a better corporate LinkedIn strategy? Because it's such a powerful platform now, in a way that nothing like that has existed before. So that I think, and again, just back to like, a young person's thing, like that's a young person's game, because they have the time, the energy to figure out. And these, like a social media platform, which LinkedIn has become, is now like they have grown up on that. So use that, use those dynamics, those behaviors that were learned in social media platforms, apply that to LinkedIn now. And it's a really great way to network, especially for people like me who don't like to go to events and talk to people. I'll do it, and I will enjoy it when I'm having the conversation. But like the getting there and then like doing it, like it's exhausting.
Yeah. No, and I hear you. I consider myself a pretty personable person, but at some point people have certain social batteries. People have things going on in their life that they
social batteries. Yeah,
that's always be jumping around to these things. And I think I brought this up the other day, and I forget who, maybe it was just me talking in the corner to myself, but seeing in like this new way in which we approach the industry in terms of like what inclusion means, you know, that also is in regards to like, not like, you can't, like back when I was in college, it was like, they're like, hey, if you have any type of social anxiety or a reason you can't show up to an event that one day, you're screwed. You're never going to get anywhere. You have to be like this person who's super out of the shell, and you have to be comfortable being super uncomfortable. No matter what's going on in your life, you got to be able to get there, and you got to be able to make it happen, or else you're going to be left in the dust. So I think with what you're saying, like LinkedIn is interesting because, like, yeah, of course you got to put yourself out there, and not to undermine that rule of thumb of like, you should be doing the work to get out there and network and meet folks. But then I think it is like an interesting point to bring up, where it's like you can use something like LinkedIn and like what you said in terms of like wanting to like carry more about the conversations revolving around the folks that you have the most interest in, like, you know, speaking to, whether it be like given the culture of a workplace or things like that. I think LinkedIn is a really cool tool for people to, you know, develop those relationships for themselves when for whatever reason they can't get into Manhattan to go to that conference that day, or they can't, you know, they don't maybe have like the certain bravado that they feel like so many other people do to be able to play a room. And I think it's like, in my mind, I'm like, well, that was always kind of demonized as like, well, you're just not going to make it then. But then I think with what you're saying with LinkedIn is really interesting, because it's like, you know, you can still make those connections. You can still develop that network, but, you know, do it on your own hustling time, and do it in a manner that is, you know, most effective to you, right? And being able to make those personal connections as opposed to like just going out there, right?
Yeah, and I still don't think that there's like any replacement for a face to face, like meeting somebody in person, getting their vibe, like meeting them, like that's the, you know, the most impressionable experience between like two people. But a good starting point is just connecting with somebody, like sharing an article or something in which you like, if you want that person to pay attention to you, how can you help them, or how can you do something for them where they'll take a notice of that, and like that's getting good at that. You can get pretty good at that on LinkedIn. So like, you know, yes, like DMs on LinkedIn can be just overwhelming, and you're getting all these kind of, but if like, it doesn't take that much to stand out, personalize it, offer something of value, you know, and chances are, like, I mean, that's how I look at it. I filter when I'm filtering through things, like the first person that actually I can tell actually just like put a little thought into this, like I'll read that whole thing, and I'll probably respond. Like it doesn't take much. It just takes a little bit of effort that shows.
Yeah, there you go. And then like you said too about, you know, using LinkedIn like a social media platform, it's something where, you know, somebody who's a young professional but has a lot of interest in this one category can respond on threads with someone like you, can like comment under your LinkedIn post. And now you guys have like just a dialogue. And it's I think, yeah, and I think maybe sometimes, I know like even it took me not until about a year and a half ago where I felt comfortable actually like responding to people on like LinkedIn. And I was just like, oh, like this
I'm still getting comfortable with it. It's not the most natural
yeah,
thing.
it's a muscle that needs to be developed for sure.
It is. 100% is. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely vital. And so how would you say, taking it back a bit, if you were to go back and tell Patrick something back like in your early 20s, what would be a piece of advice you would offer your younger self? Tough question.
Oh my God, there's so much stuff that I would say, but also I don't know. I would like part of being like young is being naive enough to just to take the risks. And like you don't know what you don't know, and so you're more likely to just like do something, but because you don't know, like maybe that the odds are stacked against you, or that this thing is never going to work, and like if you knew you were going to fail at something or whatever, you wouldn't do it. Like, so just having that kind of like blank slate and just going and doing stuff, I think is great. So like the advice thing to me is like, it would be almost like, I don't know, take more risks. But like, that was something that, that I think where I have been able to get to where I am I do have a high risk tolerance.
Yeah.
I do enjoy a casino. I do like gambling. It is something that is a thing in me that like I don't have. I mean, like it's not like I'm totally like I don't understand probability in some things, but like I have a higher level of risk tolerance. So that's why I've worked for small companies. I've done startups. I've done that. Like I kind of enjoy that sort of thing. And I would even probably just push myself even more, like take more risks. Just do whatever you think you want to try this. If you get that thing in your gut or whatever that says like, oh, there's something there that I might want to try this, like just go do it. Like, don't worry about the consequences. You're in that stage of your life, like the responsibilities only add up. And when you got 2 kids and a mortgage and aging parents and all that kind of stuff, like you will never have less responsibilities. So go and do it.
That's great. That's really great. And when you were making that first decision to go to New York back in the day, what was your internal monologue like? What were you thinking? Obviously you were taking risk. Were you having doubts at all? Or was it like, fuck it, I just got to do it?
Yeah, it goes back to the underthinking thing. I was like, I was kind of just like, you know what? So I'm from Iowa originally, and a smaller town in Iowa, like 30,000 people. So I knew that there was like the opportunities for me are going to be limited here with what I'm kind of really interested in. So I was like a little bit like, yeah, screw it. I'm going to go do this. Find the cheapest place that I can. I went actually with 3 other people. We all, shared to get our rent as low as possible. It's like ramen noodles diet for quite long. I was just like, I'll see how long I can last on this and see what I can do. And then just I was like, how hard can it be? And I mean, it was hard, but we took, just all day, every day is just applying until I got one call. And then like that was it. So it was a little bit like, screw it. Like, I'm going to do this. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And granted, I understand that like I have very much had the privilege and the safety net that like if that didn't work, I could go back home and move in with my parents. They may not like it, but it's not like I didn't have a place to go back to. So I got to thank, shout out to the parents for giving me that opportunity in that way. But yeah, it was one of those underthinking situations, just like, what's the worst that could happen? I'm just gonna go out there and do this.
Yeah, there you go. And hey, it obviously worked out very well.
For now, yeah, we'll see. We're still in it.
It seems like we'll be okay. Well, man, Patrick, thank you so much for joining us at ODI today. Before we leave, is there any other piece of advice? You bestowed lots of wisdom on us today, but are there any other pieces of advice you would offer out to the students today? You've touched on a lot. So if you said it all,
yeah. I mean, like the taking risk thing, absolutely. I think that let curiosity be your guide a little bit, like, because that's the thing that I think I've found to be like the best thing for me, is that like part of the reason I've been able to do what I do, and we've been able to be as successful at Fuse with some of these things, is that like I just naturally think about these things. Like it's just something that I'm interested in. Like when I go home, and sometimes it can be detrimental, just like how much I spend thinking about some of these things, just because it's just like it's something that personally interests me. And if you do that, then I think that's kind of it's a little bit of an advantage. So I think that's important, and I think it's like keep an open mind. I mean, like I think when I was getting into to everything, like there was still like publishing was a business, and the word of mouth marketing piece was like, that was a fairly, and it was going through, coming out of that, going into above average, where things started to feel a little less stable. And now since then, like everything's kind of been unmoored. Like so many things are in transition. And if I were just getting into something now, I would like, absolutely be like, you understand that like whatever is the hot new thing right now may not be the hot new thing in 6 months. So like, don't make your identity about that thing. Like keep an open mind and understand that like the new normal is change. And so just making sure that like you are spending the time thinking about critically about these things and understanding that like there's gonna continue to be a lot of change. And so keep that open mind and just be, you know, be someone who can like be a good part of a team. I guess that's like for us, that's how, like, again, like a Fuse, how we kind of look at things. It's like, is this person, like, are they going to be a good part of our team? Whether they can do the job or not. Like the job's going to change in 6 months. Like, are they smart? Are they curious? Do they work hard? Do they want to be here? Hire them. Like, you know, like do they, you know, the fundamentals are there. Like, yeah, can they help us figure this out? You know, so like that just seems like that has a lot of value right now. So I would focus on, you know, making sure that comes across if you're looking for new opportunities.
Love it. No, that's great. Well, Patrick Courtney from Fuse Media, thank you so much again for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. Feel grateful to be part of it.
Well, thank you for
coming.
Thank you. All right. Well, everybody watching, it's obvious that Patrick is answering LinkedIn DMs. Just slightly, and I'm sure you'll talk to him soon. All right, Patrick.
Yeah, they're open.